Cinematic slow pan, a mud-caked vintage Honda XL idling in the backwoods. Exhaust drifting in cold air. Cut to a close-up of a 2027 XR150L throttle. Body, wires, sensors. A different world entirely. For over 50 years, Honda built something that no marketing department could have invented deliberately. A reputation. Not for speed, not for technology, not for being the most sophisticated machine in any category, but for something far more valuable to the kind of rider who actually lives on their motorcycle. Simplicity, bulletproof, screwdriver and spark plug wrench simplicity that got riders home from places where nothing else would have. We called them the bikes you couldn't kill. And somewhere in Montana's backwoods, somewhere in the Baja Desert, somebody is still riding a Honda from the 1970s right now and calling it completely reliable. In 2027, Honda is closing that chapter permanently. The XR150L, the last genuinely carbureted budget adventure bike in their lineup, is going full electronic fuel injection. And if you are the kind of rider who values mechanical honesty over digital convenience, if you are someone who works on your own motorcycle and considers that part of the ownership experience rather than an inconvenience, this update is not just a specification change. It is a warning about what kind of motorcycle Honda is building from here forward. And the hidden costs buried inside this upgrade deserve a conversation nobody else is having loudly enough. Stay with this, because the EFI debate on the XR150L isn't really about fuel injection. It's about who this bike is for after the change. Before 2027, the answer was obvious. Anyone, anywhere, with basic mechanical knowledge and basic tools. After 2027, that answer becomes significantly more complicated. And the gap between those two answers is exactly where this conversation gets uncomfortable. Welcome back to Riders Pro. Honda isn't adding fuel injection to the XR150L because their engineers woke up one morning wanting to redesign a machine that has worked reliably for decades. They are doing it because government emissions regulations, €5 plus standards and tightening EPA requirements in the United States have effectively made the carburetor illegal on new production motorcycles in major markets. The carburetor is not dying because it stopped working. It is dying because the regulatory environment stopped tolerating it. That distinction matters because it means this transition is happening on a timeline set by legislation, not by what riders actually need or want from a machine in this category. Here is the practical consequence of that timeline. You are replacing a carburetor that costs around $30 to rebuild, a repair any mechanically capable rider can complete in an afternoon with basic tools, with an electronic fuel injection system that costs $600 or more to replace as a unit. You are replacing a mechanical component that fails gradually and visibly, giving a rider warning and options, with a digital system where sensor failures can be sudden, diagnostic, and completely unresponsive to field repairs without specialized equipment. The bike that once belonged to the DIY garage is being moved permanently to the dealership service bay. For the budget rider, that is not a technical update. It is an economic restructuring of what ownership actually costs. The maintenance arithmetic is where this update hits hardest. A carburetor rebuild kit for the XR150L costs about the same as a decent meal. You can do it yourself, on your timeline, with tools that fit in a jacket pocket. Now consider a failed throttle position sensor or a fuel pump fault on a 2027 EFI model. You need a diagnostic scanner to read the fault code. You potentially need a proprietary Honda diagnostic tool to access the system fully. And if the repair requires specialist labor, you are looking at $100 an hour in shop time for a fault that, on the previous generation, would have been diagnosed by smell, sound, and experience in 10 minutes at the side of a trail. There is also the battery dependency that EFI introduces at a fundamental level. A healthy carbureted XR will bump start or kickstart with a weak battery. The EFI system requires a battery with sufficient charge to wake the fuel pump and initialize the electronic management before the engine will fire at all. 10 miles into remote single track with a battery that has drained overnight on a carbureted bike. That is a manageable inconvenience. On the 2027 EFI model, that is the end of the ride. You are tethered to the electrical system in a way that the original XR150L's entire design philosophy was built to avoid. The 2027 Honda XR150L with EFI is not a ruined motorcycle. For the commuter who never opens the engine cover, who wants reliable cold morning starts and consistent fuel delivery across varying altitudes, the electronic fuel injection upgrade delivers genuine, daily use improvements. Starts are more consistent. Performance at elevation is more stable. Long-term fuel system maintenance is simpler in routine conditions. For that rider, this is a better bike than what it replaced. But for the rider who bought the XR150L specifically because it was the last budget adventure machine that could be kept running indefinitely, with mechanical knowledge and accessible parts, the 2027 model is a fundamentally different proposition, not worse in every measurable category, but different in the category that mattered most to the people who chose this bike over everything else available at its price. The 2025 and 2026 carbureted models are still available in many markets. If mechanical self-sufficiency is the quality you are purchasing, buying one now, before the transition completes, is not irrational. It is a conscious choice about what kind of ownership experience you actually want. Some of the best decisions in motorcycling are the ones made before the market removes the option entirely. So I want your honest position on this. Are you embracing the EFI future, cleaner emissions, better starts, more consistent fuel delivery, and accepting the digital dependency that comes with it? Or are you holding onto the carbureted generation because what it represented was worth more than what the new technology replaces it with? Drop it in the comments. And subscribe to Riders Pro, because next video, we compare the final carbureted XR150L directly against the 2027 EFI model in a back-to-back real-world test. That comparison is going to settle arguments that have been running in this community for a long time. Disclaimer: this script is produced for informational and entertainment purposes only. The 2027 Honda XR150L EFI update. Cost estimates, maintenance scenarios, and riding observations described are based on AI-assisted research, publicly available information, rider community discussions, and creative interpretation. Final specifications, pricing, and availability may vary by market. Riders Pro holds no affiliation with or endorsement from Honda Motor Company.